All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you all so much for being here. This is Where to Go Birding in Winter with Luke Safford. And as you know, if you've ever attended any of our events, we start them all the same way. We start by telling you about our mission and why we're here and why we do this. It's pretty simple. We're out here to inspire people to protect and enjoy birds. We feel that if we tell you about some of these wonderful places Luke's going to talk about today, feature some of the birds that you can see in these places, you really can't help but be inspired and want to protect these places and these birds moving forward. So that's a big reason why we do it. And I also like to say another reason why we do it is just a lot of fun. Getting people together, talking about places to go birding, it's a lot of fun. So that's another reason why we do it as well. I think many of you know Luke. Luke is our director of engagement here at Tucson Audubon. He's been birding this area for about a decade now, a little over. So he knows all the spots, knows all the birds. And with that, I'll step aside and let you take it away, Luke.
Thanks, Danita. Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know all the spots. I think that's the beauty of Southeast Arizona. There's a lot of spots that are unknown still. A lot of different canyons, a lot of places I have not been or only been once or twice. I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing. That's the beauty of it. Always looking for new spots, but we do have, yeah, we have a lot of different opportunities. There are those spots that we go to all the time. And there's two different spots that I really want to talk about today. We'll have some time at the end to kind of, if there's other locations that you are interested to go to in November, December, January, we could talk about those. But let's see. Let me share my screen here. Share sound. Okay, there we go. I think I got it. All right. We all looking good there? All right. So, where to go birding in November? When I think about November, I think about waterfowl. I think about ducks. And so, like, I couldn't help but have a ringneck duck be like our bird for the month here. This is a beautiful male. Um, and, all these ducks are starting to come back in at the end of October, this time, November, December, and get all these waterfowl. And so, this is by far my favorite duck. I don't know if you guys know, but there's been a lot of people who want to change the name of this duck from ringneck duck to ring-billed duck. Danita, I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, we can all see the ring on the bill here, but then I also just want you to see it. There is a nice ring right here on the neck. You can see like where the head meets the neck right here. It goes from like kind of this beautiful kind of real black, almost golden color down to like kind of a, I don't know, maybe not as shiny of a black. Like, I don't know. Y'all can see that right there. So let's keep that ringneck duck. Let's throw that in there. Another bird that really stands out to me when I think about November is American bittern. As many of you know, Sweetwater Wetlands is one of my favorite spots to bird. And for the past 8 or 9 years that I've been there, October and November, December have been the time of year when American bitterns come back. Now, the problem with this November is that we won't have very many cattails at Sweetwater. They've already burned the east side of Sweetwater because of some invasive water lettuce, and they're going to be doing the western burn for Sweetwater, the West Basin. They're going to be doing that on November 13th. So we may not see American bittern this year at Sweetwater. Still a possibility of it though. So there or other places, if you go to Whitewater Draw or if you go to Patagonia Lake, if you go to another spot that we're going to talk about here, I'm sure that'd be a pretty sweet bird for the spot that we're going to talk about soon. But American bittern is something that I associate with the month of November. And I do think it's good, like when you're anticipating birding, going somewhere, think about the birds that could be there at the time of year. We think about location, we think about habitat, but also like one of the big things to think about when we go birding is just what time of year is it? We are talking earlier about birding around by Lake Havasu at Rotary Park, and what do we see there? Western meadowlarks, white-crowned sparrows. You know, if we were there and visited there in June or July, neither of those birds would be there. But because we're visiting there in October, November, when those winter birds start coming back, that's what we can expect. If we were going to be there in June or July, we'd expect yellow warblers in the cottonwoods there. So it's just totally different. So in November, here's some birds to think about: raptors, waterfowl, and sparrows. Like it's just the time of year for those birds to start coming back to our area. You know, wintering raptors like northern harriers, waterfowl like the ringneck duck, white-crowned sparrows, white-throated sparrows, Savannah sparrows, you know, all these different sparrows coming back, chipping sparrows into these areas that we love and go birding at. Also, you know, as we go into the winter, the higher elevation I mean, you can still get some different and interesting, unique birds in the higher elevation, but if you're working in lower elevation, you're going to get generally a higher variety of bird species. So that's something to think about. If you're looking for a specific bird, you go to that habitat. But if you're looking for just a greater variety, to stay in low elevation seems to produce a greater number of bird species. Danito talked about how the, you know, just temperatures are changing a little bit. So think about where the sun is going to hit first when you go to these locations. Generally, the birds are going to just kind of wake up with the sun as well. So like if you go to a city park and you see the sun, you know, and it's like 40, 50 degrees, and it's early in the morning, you want to go where the sun is hitting. That's where like the yellow rump warblers and the white-crowned sparrows are going to start being more active in those areas. You kind of start there and move into the sunny spots with try to keep your back to the sun so you have a good view into that. A lot of times people, you know, who are coming from out of town, or even those of us who are right here, when we think about winter, we think about Sandhill Cranes coming back. And so those are all, you know, already showing up at places like Whitewater Draw, the Cochise Lake at Wilcox. So they aren't in huge numbers yet, but they are coming back already. And so like, I believe the field trip I'm leading in November is to Whitewater Draw, if I remember right. Danito, that's November, right? Whitewater Draw. He's probably not even listening to me. But if I remember right, we're doing a Whitewater Draw trip in November or December. We'll probably be doing a few of those. But go to our field trip page, look for those, or just go out to Whitewater yourself and see all of them as they come back. If you have any questions about the cranes, we can hit those later in the talk. And then, you know, Christmas bird counts, they don't happen in November, but that's when you start kind of preparing for them. Hopefully you'll get to be a part of a Christmas bird count coming up. And if you want to be a part of the Tucson Valley Christmas bird count, Danito and I are now compiling that. So if you want to be a part of what we're doing here, the count is going to be Tuesday, December 17th. I know it's Tuesday. I think that Tuesday is the 17th. But if you want to be a part of that, let us know. It's always a fun thing to be a part of, and just to count not just bird species, but birds in total. So those are some things. Oh, hey, Dennis, I'm going to mute you again. If you could stay on mute, that'd be awesome. Thank you, sir. But yeah, those are some things I think about when it comes to birding in November and the winter. The place I want to start off talking about today is Arivaca Lake. I can't see all of you if you raise your hand, but I'm wondering how many of you have ever been to Arivaca Lake. It doesn't get a whole lot of attention for a few reasons. One is because it takes a while to get out there. It's about an hour and a half from Tucson. We'll look at the map and how to get out there. It's a little bit of a longer drive. Some of the areas around the lake involve some hiking, so it's a little hard to get into some of those areas. But here's the thing, is that it's an area that's always intrigued me. It's an area that I get a lot of questions about that I haven't really been able to answer all the questions about how to go birding Arivaca Lake. There's a lot of rare bird possibilities. One of the major ones that we see out there we'll talk about is green kingfisher. So I wanted to go and explore it and to share a little bit more about it with you. And then I also wanted to invite my friend Brian Nicholas. He's actually sitting next to me over here.
Hello.
He's right there. Brian is going to be sharing some different thoughts about birding Arivaca Lake as well, because if you believe it, there have been 1,942 bird checklists done at Arivaca Lake. So almost 2,000. And over 30% of those checklists have been done by this guy right here, Brian Nicholas. He has 611 checklists there. So he's kind of like like how many checklists I have at Sweetwater, which is not the most. Like there's other people who have birded there more than me, but like he's like the Arivaca Lake guy. So like anything about Arivaca Lake, you got to bring Brian into the conversation. Arivaca Lake can just be a little bit intimidating though, because it's the accessibility of it can be a little tricky. And now here's the thing is that if you have if accessibility issues, just there's a small area that's really accessible just right from the boat launch that we'll show, and you can bird right from the parking area. But there's also some other ways to bird too, like by kayak and all that. So let's dig into Arivaca Lake and the different possibilities that are there. And then I'm going to hit on another location that's right in town that's very accessible, that's very easy to bird. So we'll kind of have this, it's kind of like opposite day. Like we'll have one area that's kind of hard to bird and another area that's really easy to bird. Both have like these a uniqueness about them though. So when you go and bird Arivaca Lake, the habitat that you're mostly going to be in is like mesquite oak grassland. There's some juniper in some of the areas, and then riparian along with the lake itself. So here's some stats and birds to look for. Here's a beautiful green kingfisher. I don't think this picture was taken at Arivaca Lake, but it's a great look at one of the specialty birds that we have here. There's been 200 species recorded in the months of November, December, and January. And, a lot of these, you get a lot of ducks when you go into this area. You get a lot of sparrows, grebes, herons, ospreys, both belted and green kingfishers. So there's just a lot right here. Let's look at how to bird this location. So here is a picture of like the road that goes into Arivaca Lake. And so as we dive into this, I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to go to new share here. Let's see. Where's my new share? Oh, they changed the look of this. Okay, here we go. Okay. Let's go to Google Maps. Okay. So let's back up. So here's Tucson up here. You see my little blue dot? That's my office. And then if we type in Arivaca Lake, this is where we're talking about. Arivaca Lake, Arizona. Way down here in a little bit southwest of Tucson proper, and a little bit southeast of the town of Arivaca. So how do we get there? Let's hit the little directions map right here. Okay, so here is a look at how to get there. Now, this is really important, okay? So we have this map when you put in the Google map of how to get to Arivaca Lake, but this is not the best way to do it, all right? So because when you put in Arivaca Lake, what it does is it takes you to up here to kind of this north part of Arivaca Lake next to the dam. We don't want to go to the dam because this road right here is 4-wheel drive. We don't necessarily want to do that, all right? What we want to do is we want to get to the boat launch. So when you put it into your Google Maps, don't just type in Arivaca Lake and let the map take you there. What you want to do instead, I'm going to turn that off. And what we're going to do instead is at the very kind of southern tip of Arivaca Lake, that's where the boat launch is at. that's where we want to like start with our headquarters. That's where we want to be. So you just click on that, whether it's from your phone or like wherever you're at, and you just put like a little dot there, and then you hit directions from that. So it's the same. It's like it's like an hour and a half. You go down I-19, down past Green Valley, and after you pass the Canoa Ranch exit, the next exit is going to be a Amato. You take the Amato exit, and then you just go west on this little highway, right on Arabaca Road. You'll go through there's usually a little checkpoint there, and you go down Arabaca Road, and that weaves all the way down. That road seems like it takes forever, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Like that you get on there, you get off of the freeway, you get off I-19, you're like, all right, I'm almost there. No, you're not. You're not almost there. It's still, you just got to keep driving. And you take that Arabaca Road all the way down to Arabaca. And from Arabaca, there'll be a sign right here that says, you know, Arabaca Lake to the left, Arabaca Lake, Ruby Road. It'll all be signed. And this is still paved. You take this left out of Arabaca and you come on this paved road, and it's paved all the way. This is the beginning of Ruby Road. Like if you go to California Gulch or any of those other like crazy spots, Sycamore Canyon that we've talked about. But it's paved all the way up to where you take the Arivaca Lake Road off of it. And there's a nice little sign here as well. And this is kind of like, as you're on Ruby Road, there's like a big tower right here, and you're kind of up at the top, come to almost like a peak. And then right by that tower is where you'll take this left onto Ranch. It's called Ranch Lane, or it might be Arivaca Lake Road. So this right here is where you get off of the paved road, and then this is a dirt road. So this is a dirt road that takes you, it's not really bad. Like, I've taken like my old Chevy Lumina, just like little sedan car on way worse roads than this. You'll take the Arivaca Lake Road all the way over to the boat launch. There is like one spot, I think it's like right in here where you kind of go through a little bit of a wash, but the road's not bad. The road's not bad at all. But there is a road that goes off to the right that looks like in some ways, it kind of looks like it's more well used than the actual road that you're on. And this right here is a picture of that. So you can see how this road kind of goes off the right. Just keep going straight on this Arivaca Lake Road. You can see there's like a little bit of a bump right here, but you just take it easy through there and it's no problem at all. You have a little sedan, don't you, Brian?
Yeah. Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, Brian is a Toyota Corolla. So like it's not Brian, have you ever had any issues with driving through there?
I haven't had issues. You do have to go slow right here because the stream is
Right
coming
through this
across
area.
there. So it just yeah, if you have a sedan, then I would take it a little bit slower on Arivaca Lake Road right now until they kind of you know, redo it a little bit. They had good summer rains, and so there are some areas where the water flowed across, and so you just want to be careful with your you know, compact cars or sedans.
But it is doable. It's more than doable, and just stay on that road. Once you put once you get your map and it takes you there, just make sure it's on the boat launch, and it should just take you right there. It was super easy for me. Oh, whoops. I hit the wrong button. Let me reshare here. All right. Let me get back to that. So that's a little bit how you get there, and then let's actually talk about how to get to the birding locations and what to look for. So here is a picture of the parking lot. You can see there's a little bit of this little concrete sidewalk that goes this. You see where I parked my Jeep, and then the concrete sidewalk goes all the way down to the boat launch area. Also in this parking area, this is Coronado National Forest parking area. There's a little bathroom here. Brian says that they've been keeping pretty good care of it lately.
Yes.
But I just, bring your own teepee. They should have teepee in there, but you just never know. I just wanted to put that in there to just remind y'all. But there is a nice little bathroom there. It is pretty well used. You know, if you're here on a weekend, you're going to see a lot of people who are out there fishing. There is some duck hunting that happens out there during the winter too, so just be mindful of that. But well, it does get, you know, some good use. If you're there during the week, you may just see 1 or 2 people there. You know, it's pretty remote. So that's just something to think about. Oh, yeah. Also, one other thing, just to showcase just how good of a birding area this is. I want to show. Let me take us to. So in eBird, you can explore different regions. So in eBird here, I'm exploring Arizona, the Arizona region. And it takes you to a list of all the different hot spots and ranks them by how many birds have been, you know, species leaders for hotspots. You can see Patagonia Lake is #1 species leader for all hotspots in Arizona, 335. You can see this right here. Arivaca Lake is number 15 at 286 in all of Arizona. It's ahead of Canoa Ranch. It's ahead of Patagonia Sonoyta Creek Preserve. It's ahead of San Gertrudis Lane. It's ahead of all these different spots. It's 15th overall. It's big time, right? So most of the time, these hot spots that are species leaders are also, you know, corresponds with checklist leaders as well. But if you go and look to see where Arivaca is at as far as how many checklists have been submitted from these spots, you scroll all the way down to 100 and it's not even on there. So while it's 15th overall in species, it's not even the top 100 for how many checklists. And so, you know, Brian birds it all the time, and I think he would love to have more people birding it to continue to increase how many different species Arivaca Lake is getting. You know, it's just for how much is birded, not very much. The amount of bird species there is amazing. So just be mindful of that. Now, as we look at, let's go to, let's look at Arivaca Lake here on the Google Maps here. This gives you an idea of like what it looks like. So you can see here's the boat launch down here, and you got all these different sections. Like, how do you go about birding this spot? So one of the best spots is right here is Bartolo Canyon. This is Bartolo Cove right here. And I'm going to show you how to get over into this area. If we go to a recent checklist that I did from there, because I wanted to go and check this place out. You can see here's how I got there. You know, from the parking area, I crossed over through this little water section and into here. So let me show you with some pictures exactly what this looks like, and then we're going to invite Brian to share some of his tips how to make it easier. All right. So let's go back to share here. Boom, if I can. Okay. Oh yeah, I had it out here. Okay, so here is where I access a trail to cut across that first little cove right by the boat launch. There's a little concrete section right here, and right from the end of the concrete section is like this little trail. Now, Brian was saying that there's a trail just off to the left of this as well that might be easier.
Yes, right at the edge of the parking lot where it goes down into the area of the swampy area of burrs and everything. It's actually more dry now, so you can actually walk that and then get over towards a cottonwood tree on the end of the south end of the cove where the trail really starts, where you can really get a good trail. This is great too. I would use this trail as well because it's very birdy in here. Actually, especially if you're looking left from this trail in there or right from inside the swampy area there. A lot of sparrows like to hold up here. This is where I've had swamp sparrow. I mean, I've had fox sparrow in there. But along this trail here too, you also can get things like eastern phoebe.
Okay.
So
So here's the trail that I was using here. This is what it kind of looks like. It's not like it was kind of overgrown from this year. Like you said, there was good rains there. So like the trail right through here can be a little bit hard to find, but it is there.
Yes.
And when you get into that kind of it's kind of swampy, but I mean it's not real swampy, but when you get into that area where the cattails are at, this is on the right here, this is what it looks like your view up into the lake right next to the boat launch. You can even see a little boat that's right out here at that time. And so as he crosses section, that we get into this where this little gate is at, and the trail becomes much more defined from here. So also to show you on the bigger map, just because I think it's a little bit easier too. So as we scroll into here, you can see like when I hadn't really birded Airbock Lake too much except by kayak. And so I was trying to figure out how to get over here. And you can see I kind of went back in here trying to look for it. But Brian says that right through here, you can see where my cursor is at. This section right here, there's a little trail here that I missed. And then I was looking around in here of how to get over. You can see the trail comes out right in here. This is where you want to get to. And however you can get through this section right here, make it happen. Brian said that so Brian, this whole section right here is drying up, right?
That section's drying up. You're still doing a little bit of weaving to get to the trail there, but just center on that towards that cottonwood that's at the south end of the cove, and you'll find the trail there.
Yeah.
So,
And then you know, if this is difficult for you, the birding all around this whole parking area and out onto the
right here.
the bridge, and then you can follow. There's a little trail that goes through here that's a little bit easier, but just be prepared as you go through here. I would also say wear long pants. Brian, have you ever gotten scratched up to there?
Every time.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a thorn scrub, so you're going to want to wear long sleeves and long pants.
Yeah. So I spared you guys the picture of my leg. My legs got a little scratched up. But once you get through this gate right here, it's just an easy gate to go through, and then the trail widens and opens up, and you come up. And so as you get on that trail, you kind of work your way around, you get up on this ridge, and you look out over Bartolo Cove. And now so the birding's already started, because as you work through these kind of uplands here, like you're going to have sparrows, paraluxias all around you. So you just, you work your way. It's not like you have to get into the cove to have good birding. Like there's still, lots of birds up through here through these highlands, but this is you looking over into the cove. And then here's the cove itself. So Brian, when you come up like on this section right here and you're in full birding mode, what are you looking for? What are you thinking?
So what I'm thinking when I come to this cove, you're going to come down the trail and you're going to come to a big willow, which sometimes has things like the green kingfisher there. So, and there's some sparrows, Lincoln sparrows, sparrows in there. You'll get to that section, kind of bird there, and then the trail will go to the right along the shore of Bartolo Cove. And Bartolo Cove is very shallow. So so as it drains, it's the shoreline moves up pretty quickly. So as it dries out, you can get grassland sparrow flocks out in the dry areas right where the water is ending. And also along the trail, there's even when Bartolo Cove is drying up, you have this canal that goes back to Bartolo Creek. And that's also a good spot to look for the green kingfisher. I know in 2021, when there was a green kingfisher here, it really favored that area. And a lot of times it would spook as you're walking that trail over there. And
and what Brian's talking about. So here's the route that I took when I was there recently. So where I took the picture that you saw is probably like right, if you see where my cursor is at, like I was like right in here.
Yes.
And the willow that he was talking about is in this little finger, but there is like the canal kind of, there's kind of like a little bit of like water that sticks like right along this edge right here, right?
Yes.
You're talking about.
And right now it's extending right back in there.
Yeah, you can see this is like where where the water ended, where I was able to cross over into the Bartolo Canyon itself. So like, yeah, this section was like really thick with willows, and I had a belted kingfisher come out of there, but not a green kingfisher.
Yes, and you get if in this area here, right next to that, you get Savannah sparrows, especially lazuli buntings, and earlier in the year you'd have painted buntings in that area too.
Yeah.
So
Not in November though.
not in
Probably.
November.
Probably
No.
no painted buntings in November. But yeah, be looking for Wilson snipe through there. I had Wilson snipe jump out. So you have all those awesome water birds, and then not only do you have the water birds, but then you can drop down, the trail kind of goes down, and then you can drop down into this Bartolo Canyon where you can walk right up this wash, and you got these cool oaks and junipers on either side of you. Great habitat for all sorts of crazy birds through there.
Yes, especially upland species in Bartolo Canyon. It's a one spot in Arivaca Lake where you can really see like species like Arizona woodpecker,
Oh, yeah.
the Mexican and Woodhouse's scrub jays, and so some of the upland species will show up there when they might not be in other places around the lake.
Yeah. Yeah. And what that results in is like high species counts.
Yes.
Right. So like Brian, what is, so when you think about like November, what kind of species count are you thinking? Like what, when you go there, like what, do you have a number in mind that you want to hit?
Well, I mean, usually even on shorter trips, you're gonna hit over 40 species if you hit Bartolo Canyon, Bartolo Cove and the parking area and bird it, fairly diligently. So usually 40 to 50 species for that. Even that's morning or afternoon. Afternoon can be extremely productive at the lake. Um, and then like the other day, I went for a very strenuous walk around the lake and probably about 5.5 miles, but very tough going and very thorny. But I had 75 species that day, and that's one of the higher counts,
Yeah.
especially for this season.
Yeah. I mean, if you can hit anywhere near 50, 60 in a day, in November, especially October, it's crazy. Here's one of the birds to be looking for. Like when I was walking through that canyon, I had multiple bush tit flocks. This is not a bird that gets a lot of love, it's a small gray bird, but what's really cool is that they have kind of like this popcorn movement through the trees, through the mesquites, and through the just junipers and everything through there. I don't know, some of you have better ears than I, but like a lot of times, like when I'm with my friend Matt Griffiths, he can like always hear these bush tits before we see them. And so I thought I'd just play a call of them. I can almost hear you can just hear their wings right there, like as they're flying. It's really high pitched. So like listen for that. Like as you're sometimes in November, December, as we're birding these areas, it can be kind of quiet. Like, and sometimes you don't have like a lot of activity and you're like, man, there's nothing out here. But then all of a sudden, like all these like we just get into an area where we can hear like so much. So like just keeping your ears like in tune for bush tits, bridal titmice, lesser goldfinches, like everything kind of moving through there, and just kind of keeping your ears in tune as much as your eyes. And bush tit is a cool bird, just like these flocks that just kind of bounce around everywhere. And oftentimes they kind of intermix with, like, there are other bird species that intermix with them too. So here's some other, so there's a lot of possibilities of rare birds at Arivaca Lake. So Brian, here's a list of some that I put this list together without Brian's approval, but I think this is a good one, a good list to be thinking about. But Brian, pick like 2 of these birds and like share, or maybe one, maybe because of time, but like what's one of these birds that you've seen that you're really excited about?
I'd have to say the common loon. The common loons and the gulls and like red-breasted merganser, those are birds that you're going to most likely see at the north end of the lake,
Oh yeah,
the open part of the lake.
Let's look at
So,
this here.
and that's so that north part of the lake can be accessed. You can look at the north part of the lake from the end of the peninsula there and get pretty good views. It helps have a scope, but you can get pretty good views of the birds out there. And that's where you're going to get the things like common goldeneye, the common loon, horned grebe. That's another bird that's been seen there. And it's just going through the duck flocks in that northern portion very carefully. You never know what you're going to find. And that's one of the beauties of Arivaca Lake, is that this lake is 90 acres. So it may not look like it, but you've got all these fingers, and you've got that main body. And that main body of lake attracts birds like loons and some of the birds that you don't see on the smaller ponds around Tucson. I think the ponds around Tucson are 13 acres at the most. So you've got a lot of potential, whether you go on the peninsula or if you go through the thorn scrub on this west shore, you can get better views from near the dam of the north portion of the lake.
This is a dam up here, kind of the northwest section.
Yes.
So Brian, how difficult is it to, like, you can see I didn't go up to the north part of this finger here to look out into that portion. How hard of a hike is it to go from like where my little screen finger is up to the top there?
The hike actually, for me, it's not that hard, but you do have to watch because there's a lot of loose rock on the hard surface. So you can get up there from that cattle gate, probably takes about 10 or 15 minutes to get to the tip.
Okay.
And then you can look over the lake and maybe even see some sora in some of the cattails and the coves there. And maybe look for the green kingfisher hanging out over in the willows that hang out over the shore on almost every portion of the lake.
Yeah. Yeah. As Brian said, this is a big lake. So like when you go here, don't expect to cover all of it. All right. So like you just pick a spot and just kind of roll with that for the day, come back a different time, pick out a different spot. So one thing, there are some benefits of kayaking. So like I've been out here a couple times with my friend Tom. He's got kayaks. I don't have kayaks. Maybe you have kayaks. If you do, or if you know someone like Tom who you can borrow them from, take the kayak out, and you can see this is I had my little tracker on as I was birding one time kayaking around Arivaca Lake, and this is kind of the route that I took. This ended up being, I think it was like around 6 or 7 miles of kayaking, and just all through here. But it offers like a different view. You can get out into these areas in the deeper water to be able to see everything. You can go up into the channels to look for green kingfisher, all of that. So that's all. This is where you would launch your kayak. This is the boat launch right from the parking area. You can see this is not November. This is actually from the Coronado National Forest website. So, but it's a really nice boat launch. It's used a lot, so it's kept up really well. You can take out any kind of vessel out there, really. Well, not do they? Yeah, they.
Motors under 5 horsepower, I think is what the sign says.
Yeah, motors under 5
Most
horsepower.
boats use a trolling motor.
Okay, yeah. Kayak, that's less than 5 horsepower, so you're good to go. So also Brian talked a little bit about the dam, and you can hike up to the dam. This is not up to the dam, but this is just the direction of the dam that keeps on going up here. But Brian, this little section right here, you said this is a good warbler section right here?
Yes, the section that Luke has right there has had a lot of eastern warblers over the years. I can tell you it's had palm warbler, Louisiana water thrush, northern water thrush, black and white warbler, northern parula. So it is it's kind
And
of
those
like
are in the winter?
not all the
Or-
winter, yeah,
okay.
but a lot of those show up in the winter, like black and white and northern parula. Though they're winter birds.
Okay.
Louisiana water thrush could be a winter bird. That's shown up multiple times at the lake.
Okay. How difficult is it to walk this little section right here?
So-
There's a little bit of a trailer, there, right?
There's a little bit of a trail, and especially if you go up on the upland there, as the water drains, you can walk along the shoreline a little bit more.
Yeah, it looked like when I was there, like there's a little trail that goes out like right here. It looks like you might be able to.
Yes, and
Okay.
but if you have four-wheel drive, I would take that road over to the dam. There's a dirt road that goes to the dam, and from the Arivaca Lake Road, and that would that would take you to that habitat where there's also a small little cattail pond. And in that cattail pond, recently I had rufous-backed robin in there coming in for a drink. It's a good place to sit and just watch birds coming in for a drink. Because
This is the road you're talking about right in here?
Yeah, that road right there. It
Okay.
gets a little narrow, so even with four-wheel drive, you're gonna get the thorny bushes against the side of your truck. But once you get to once you get in there, there's a little area that's always wet over there too, where birds hang out. And sometimes in the winter time, the secret is to get to the place where birds are getting water. So that way you can just sit and have them come to you. And Arivaca Lake has a lot of those places. There's in Bartolo Cove that we're talking about. That's a good place.
Mhm.
Around the parking area, right underneath the parking area before that trail is a good place to watch them come in.
Mhm.
Come in. And that little cattail pond is a great place to just kind of sit and see what shows up.
So we're gonna move on from Arivaca Lake here pretty soon, but this is just a PowerPoint slide of a Google map that Brian is putting together right now for a lot of different uses, but it's something that we'll link to in our follow-up email that has each one of these different little numbers corresponds to here, let me actually get over to. So this is the map that we're going to share. So like, if you want to look to see where clay-colored sparrow was seen on November 17th, 2021, you just click on it, and that's takes you right there, like right there on the north part of the lake. Or if you're looking at this map and you're like, where's the gate? Well, the gate right here, number 17, the cattle gate along the trail. So this gives you a whole bunch of information about the site that you can use to just kind of be mindful of. Like number 4 right here, that's the point that we were talking about to see the different waterfowl, the deeper diving ducks and stuff like that. So he has that marked on there. So we'll share that with you in the follow-up email, so you can have that for future reference. Any questions about Arivaca Lake and birding there that Brian or I might be able to help you all out with before we move on to a city park where you won't cut up your legs?
Yeah, we've got a couple comments too from people who have been there, and then some questions. Tony recommended either not taking or at least exercising a lot of caution if there's been rain out in that area. The rough can get a little rough. The road can get a little rough. So again, recent rain, make sure to take caution. Larry just wanted to mention, again, we've kind of talked about some of the rough trails out there, but Larry just wanted to mention that A group from Green Valley went out there, and a couple of them actually fell. So if you have hiking poles, it's probably a good idea to take those out there. And then as far as the questions go, Corey was asking just kind of again in regards to the tough trail navigation. Are there any rock cairns out there, or has kind of anybody made any individual efforts to help people find the trail that y'all have seen?
So there are not rock cairns there. Some of the trails, like the trail along the west shore, someone told me the Boy Scouts had done that years and years ago. So there was some sort of organized trail structure at one time there. But a lot of the time it's more like the foot traffic that's been there already and the or cattle traffic that is determining where you're going to go.
Yeah, the hardest when I was there, the hardest part for me was just finding how to get over that first cove, just that right next to the boat launch is where the trail was hardest to find actually.
Exactly.
It's kind of but once you get past this first part, the trail, once you get past that cattle gate, is pretty clearly defined, at least in this section that I took over to Bartolo Cove and into the canyon.
Excellent. And then I don't know if just real quick, could you go back to your eBird, the one where you did the route on the south, the one that we were kind of talking about? Corey was also wondering just what the distance covered was when you went over to the Bartolo.
Yeah, let me pick that up here. 1.32 miles. So not as far as you might think. So this is, well, let me preface that. As 1.32 miles from here to here. So it's actually altogether 2.6, 2.7 miles round trip. That includes a lot of backtracking. You can see, after I got sidetracked for the Dusky Cap, I was backtracking a lot in here just trying to find that. I just wanted to I was like, there's got to be an easier way. There was a little backtracking here. And then over in this section, I was really, I was kind of chasing a bird right in here. And then I was also trying to get a good look into this little finger to see if I could see that other side. So there's like a lot of little backtracking there. But yeah, 1.3 to 2.6 total.
I'll add, if you're thinking of time wise, usually it takes about 15-20 minutes for me to go at birding walking speed to get over there and to the from the parking area.
Yeah, and for me, you see, I spent almost 4 hours out there in that 2.6 miles or whatever.
Excellent. So one last thing before we move on from Arivaca. Catherine asked, this is a rather remote area.
Yeah.
Is it safe for solo birding? Have you ever felt in danger or anything like that while you're
So
there?
I was there by myself. I mean, I'm in a different place than a lot of other people where, I'm fairly young and, not as worried about that. I would go there with a friend. But Brian, I mean, you go there by yourself a lot, but I mean, it's in a spot like this, it's kind of like Sycamore Canyon for me. I don't like going to, I love Sycamore Canyon. I love it. I love it. But I've been there by myself and I don't really enjoy it as much because you just don't know. You're just by yourself. Is I would recommend going with someone.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as far as I go there alone all the time. I find solitude there, but and I haven't had any real issues. Every maybe 2 or 3 times, one time someone asked me for water. One time someone asked me for something, but it was a language barrier with it. Um, but and generally the area, and I think probably most of southern Arizona is patrolled pretty heavily because any place with water in southern Arizona, I think you're gonna have some traffic.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think as far as the safety goes too, and kind of during the the seasons, the hunting season, you also want to be careful of that kind of stuff too. So,
Cool. The rest of the questions we have are about kind of locating specific species. So I'll let you go to the next area you were talking about.
Okay.
And then we can talk about these specific species people are asking
Cool.
about.
All right. So, Aravaka Lake, totally remote, totally crazy birding is like, I think, that really appeals to some folks. But you can get really good, awesome birding just right in town too. So like Silver Lake Park. Silver Lake Park, I've birded there twice, but I keep on seeing different rare birds being reported there. There was a Spriggs pipit that was there earlier this month, and it like piqued my interest. I'm like, that's a park I haven't really birded much, and that's a park I haven't talked about with people. And so I wanted to explore it a little bit. So I did this month. Quick eBird stats, 144 species total at this city park. 679 checklists. Out of those 144 species ever recorded there, 91 have been reported just this month of October. There's no pond there, there's no water, so like 91 species in a month is really good. It's really good. So like let's dive into this park a little bit. I want to show you where it's at. So let's get rid of Aravaka Lake and let's go to Silver Lake Park. All right, let's change layers here. Here's Tucson. Let's type in Silver Lake. It's on South Keno, so you can't really get more different than Aravaka Lake. Right near the border, and now we're gonna go right near Keno Parkway in our backyard. So here's Silver Lake Park. It's just north of Costco. All right. So it's like right there. You get the grackles flying over to Costco. And so you just go on Keno on the west side. And the parking area that I suggest, you can come into the parking area over here by all the ball fields and the soccer fields. I like to park up here on the northeast side of the park. This northern section of the park tends to be, in my opinion, the best, and where a lot of the different sparrow, finch flocks like to congregate. So I park in this little area right here, just off of Keno. And you can see these patches of trees. Well, when I say my normal, I've been there twice. So this is what I've done both times, is I park here and then I walk along this edge of this patch of trees on the northwest part. And then I kind of look around to see where the birds are at. So you can kind of see a lot of times at parks like this, they're going to congregate in little flocks on the ground. So let me go back to sharing something. So it's a beautiful lark sparrow. This is one of the birds that you would expect to see there feeding in the grasses just on the lawn of the park. This is what it looks like. Here's a picture of Silver Lake Park. You can see this is looking kind of from the southern part. This is one of the soccer fields, and you can see in the back here, this is the parking lot that I was talking about. This is the big section of trees where like I'll park here and then I'll walk on this east section of the trees kind of north. And this is looking at it from the south side. All right. And so when we get to the parking lot, you want to just follow the tree line and look on the lawns. You want to look for trees like this one right here in the middle. This is like a pistache tree. I think that's what they're called. You know if that's right? Pistache
I think
tree.
that's right.
Yeah, this bad boy right here.
That's what I've heard it called
Yeah.
before.
So they got like all these different like fruits or seeds that end up falling on the ground, and then these flocks of birds congregate underneath. So when you're here, you want to like walk the edges, look ahead on the ground. So a lot of times when we're birding, a lot of times our eyes are up our eyes are in the trees or up looking to the sky. Sometimes we have to get ourselves to look down on the ground. So look on the ground too when you're at these parks, because that's where a lot of these birds are congregating. You don't want to skip the soccer fields. You know, when I was at the soccer fields, like you find American pipits in there. I mean, Sprague's pipit was like a real rarity. You're probably not going to find that, but you very well could find American pipits, Western meadowlarks, right there in the grasses, brown-headed cowbirds, red-winged blackbirds feeding on the grasses in the soccer fields. And then when you're looking at a place like this, you can see the big light post here. You can see the goal posts of the soccer field over here. Every time I'm there, I'm seeing Say's phoebes, vermilion flycatchers on the goalposts. You see common ravens or raptors or cats and kingbirds up on the lights on the towers. So just looking at all of those places. But what you really want to look for are these pistache trees, because that's all the birds congregate down below these pistache trees. Ooh, there's an American pipit right there. Let me show you what I mean by like why it's so important to be looking under these pistache trees and in the grasses. So if we go to, I'm going to take us back to eBird, and I'm going to go to, where am I going? Right here. All right. Here's the bird list for Silver Lake Park. And these are the first time that the bird was observed here at Silver Lake Park. Let's go. Oh, here's a good one. Rose-breasted grosbeak. And when you're on this, you can see it. There's like, when it shows the little chat box over here, that means that someone wrote in some notes about it. So let's read the notes for rose-breasted grosbeak right here. Let's click on that. We'll scroll down. Sure, it talks about what it looked like and all of that, but also a good note taker will also put like what kind of habitat it was in or what the bird was doing. And so this person is a good note taker. Look what they wrote right here. I'll highlight it. Seen for several seconds at close range, good light, as it dropped down with house finches to feed under a pistache tree at the east side of the north field. That's exactly where, like, when you park at that parking lot, work that north part of the park right along the tree line. That's where he had this rose-breasted grosbeak feeding in with some house finches. So don't overlook the house finch flocks. When you see a bunch of house finches, just don't be like, oh, those are boring. Look with the binoculars inside of all those house finches, pick out the chipping sparrows, pick out the lark sparrows, pick out the Lawrence's goldfinch that might be hiding in there. You can see right here, this is what it looks like. You have this black-headed grosbeak that's just on the ground in the grass. It doesn't get that much. Oh, and look at this. Here's a dick thistle. There's another going. Here, I'll just click on this. What is this dick thistle feeding next to? It's feeding next to a house finch. So like we have these flocks and these birds just kind of like congregate into the different flocks. Yes, they're mostly house finches, but just look through them for something that looks different. This bird, this dick thistle, you know, it has the rufous wing. It's got a little bit of different shape. So when you're looking in these flocks, not just look for different color, but look for different shapes. Look for different activities. So like yellow rump warblers, they'll be kind of fluttering, they'll land on the ground and they'll kind of flutter. You know, house finches normally just won't flutter like that. So you look for different activity, different shapes, all of that. All right, let's look at another one. Let's go to, we already did dick thistle. How about let's go to, let's see, Harris's sparrow. This is back in January. Let's see if Edith put in some good notes for Harris sparrow. Oh, here it is. It's on the ground, was hanging out with a group of white-crowned sparrows. You know, white-crowned sparrows can be a dime a dozen when you go to a park on the ground. Just look through all, just like house finches, just look through all those white-crowned sparrow flocks for something that might stand out a little bit different. It's just another reminder that these birds all kind of congregate together. So be mindful of that. Look under those pistache trees. And this goes for not just Silver Lake Park, but Himmel Park, Fort Lowell Park, all these different spots that we go to, especially during the fall and winter, is that these birds kind of congregate on lawns, eating seeds, eating fruits that fall. And yeah, just don't overlook those flocks. And don't overlook the just open fields and look for those American pipits. This American pipit, actually, this picture was actually taken at Arivaca Lake from a kayak. So, but you can see these at Silver Lake as well. So, okay. Any questions about Silver Lake Park? Not to be, so there's not a lake there. It's called Silver Lake Park, but there's no lake there.
No.
So, that's a misnomer, I guess. So if no questions about Silver Lake, just thinking through like other really good places to go this winter. Of course, Whitewater Draw. I want to especially point out El Rio Preserve. El Rio Preserve up in the Marana area. That's where I was talking with Elliot about seeing the Magnolia Warbler. That's where the Magnolia Warbler was seen earlier. But the town of Marana has done amazing work. Let me just show you where, I think we got time. I want to show you where El Rio Preserve is at if you're not aware.
And while you're doing that, Luke, I'll just jump in. I was glad you brought up El Rio because in the comments, Julie was at El Rio this past Sunday and she had 57 species of birds out there. So it's been really, really birdy lately.
Yes, it has. So El Rio Preserve, shoot, let me all right, here's Tucson. Here's my little dot. Here's my office. So it's just up I-10 or down I-10, depending on where you live. But for me, it's up I-10, and you take the Twin Peaks exit. And instead of going over to the Nike outlet store, you take a left and you go west on Twin Peaks Road. And then you'll get to a stoplight, and that's Coachline Road, Coachline Boulevard. You go north on Coachline Boulevard, and it takes you to a very, very nice little parking area. You can see here, El Rio Preserve. And the town of Miranda has done amazing work just creating a lush area, a nice pond. There's a very accessible trail all around the pond that kind of goes this kind of, you can see where this trail is at, and it wraps around. But go and explore this winter too. It's a fantastic spot and enjoy it. I would say the first thing that I would do when I get to this spot is there's like a little viewing area right here. Get there early in the morning, and as the sun hits this little weedy patch over here, the far southwest corner of the lake, you'll see it from the viewing area. Just watch this for a while and just see what pops up there. This is a very nice little spot right here, and just spend the first 20 minutes just standing there waiting for stuff, just kind of taking it in before you start walking around the trail. Sometimes we just get so eager to just like start walking on the trail that we miss like some really good stuff. And I would say that, like, at Silver Lake or Arivaca Lake, just kind of take a moment before you like get on the trail and start going everywhere. Just kind of take it in, kind of listen to what birds are singing around you, and just kind of let that start your morning that way. I think that's always a good plan. All right. So I guess those are 3 spots: Arivaca Lake, Silver Lake Park, El Rio Preserve. 3 spots that I would really suggest if you're able to go and visit those spots. I mean, Sweetwater is really good. There's so many awesome spots to check out, and always feel free to reach out to me or Danito about these locations, or maybe a different spot that you're wondering about, and we can help you out, kind of give you some direction on what to look for, where to go. But any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions for me, for Danito, for Brian. Brian's still here. Any questions or thoughts that you guys might have about these locations or others?
Yeah, actually, Nathan just put one in. Again, we have a couple of species specific questions. Nathan just asked about Sandhill Cranes at El Rio. I did look up. I mean, there were 16 reported last November at El Rio, but I don't know, Luke. You can speak to if that was kind of more of a one-off thing. I don't know that they're consistently found there, but go ahead and talk to that.
Yeah, that's a one-off thing. They might have just been flying over. Having cranes in the Tucson metro area is always reason to jump up and celebrate and give someone a high five. Yeah, so like cranes, definitely you want to travel southeast and get over to Whitewater or Wilcox area.
Yep. Let's see real quick. Other people are just kind of mentioning places they've gone that they like. Historic Canoa Ranch is a really nice winter birding spot, easy to get around. Um, Anu was asking about Box Canyon. She said she remembers us mentioning it a time or two and was just wondering if that would be a suitable wintering spot or what time of year we like to go to Box Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, Box Canyon is a location that I would prefer to bird more in the spring and summer. Early fall. But like as you get into winter, the variety in there kind of dies down a little bit. But I mean, even in those spots, I mean, there's it can still be good, especially like around kind of like the upper part, like there's a little dam there. I don't think there's going to be any water, but it could be a location where pretty dense area where you could get rufous-back robin, or you could get I mean, there's birds that are winter there the whole time. Then Brian, you go to Box Canyon much at all in the winter?
I haven't gone there in the winter, but I would say what Luke was talking about with the dam could be good for an eastern warbler towards, November, late November especially. So any place like this winter, it's almost like 2020, any place that has even a little bit of water or lawns, you want to check them out.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So
I know. I wish we could. If there's so many other places to bird, uh, yeah, it's hard to hit all of them.
So we'll run through a couple of species specific questions real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Shoot.
Jillian was asking about suggestions on where to find mountain bluebirds.
All right. So here's what we do. Let's explore this together. Let's get into eBird here, and we'll go to explore. Let's first look to see if there's been any recent sightings of mountain bluebird in our area. So what I like to do is go to species map, and I'll type in the species, mountain bluebird. And it's going to bring up all the mountain bluebird sightings ever. Let's scroll into Tucson, Arizona here. And let's look for any red. Because red would be the last 30 days. And as you can see, there's nothing, nothing, nothing. So a lot of times, like if they are around, they're going to be in the Santa Cruz Flats, or they're going to be like Las Cienega grasslands. Sometimes they come into our city parks, but not as often. So you can see there's not very. So in mountain bluebirds in general are some of the like eruption year birds. So like some years we'll have a whole bunch of them, and other years we won't have any sightings at all. So for instance, so like if we go to if we change the date setting on here.
Hey, Luke, put it on 2022, or yeah, 2022 was that was the eruption year, so you'll get some red come up.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna do November through December. Then we'll set the date range. You can see, let's see if I can. All right, just show that. You can see you can kind of see where the sightings are at. There's a lot up here in the flats. There's some here there's a lot actually kind of over here off of Reddington Pass. That's can be a good area for bluebirds and thrushes and stuff in some winters. But But then if we change that to, let's change that to 23, and you'll see it, there's going to be a lot less. Yeah, there's only, the only sightings are, it looks like over here at Sweetwater, I guess, Christopher Columbus Park. But other than that, there's like hardly anything, right? So like it kind of goes back and forth. And so what I'm seeing right now is that we don't have any sightings yet for this year. Have you had it? You haven't had any mount. If there's no sightings here, you haven't had mountain goat.
No,
No.
I would.
No.
The closest sighting up, because I looked into it while I asked, the closest sighting so far is still up like in the White Mountains up towards like Luna, New Mexico, in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough one this year.
All right. What about cedar waxwings?
Yeah, Cedar Waxwing, Reed Park, different city parks, you know, look, we just watch the like the palm trees that have like the little dates or whatever, palm dates or whatever they are. So like at Reed Park in quite a few years that you just kind of look to see where the fruits are at. And you know, they'll be feeding in those fruit trees or the palms. And let's see, we can put in
I was about to say there's a lot of palm trees right by the rose garden. There's kind of a little section right there next to the rose garden where there's some good ones, and then on the far north edge of the park, on the north side is the baseball fields. There are a few palms there that are usually pretty good for cedar waxwings.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see all the different red is where cedar waxwing sightings have been in the past 30 days. So like on October 19th, it looks like Thomas had 10 of them at Reed Park. He got a picture. Let's see if he put in any notes. Nope, he just took a picture. They're in there somewhere. Yep. Cool.
Well, and also too, just to piggyback off, because like you were talking about the dates, you can also find those in those pistache trees as well. They love those the little fruits there.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and there's the pistachio trees at Silver Lake have a lot of food on them right now. So like you look there. Normally you wouldn't see the cedar waxwings on the ground, although they could, you know, if there's a good feeding frenzy going on, you want to look up in the tree themselves for the cedar waxwings, or you know, you hear them as they go over. My ears aren't that great, but still, like they're pretty loud when they're flying around, and they fly in these really tight flocks, and their wing beats are a lot like European starlings for me, like kind of fast wing beats. So you just kind of look for these tight flocks of birds that fly a little bit like starlings, and you'll be able to hear them. All
right, let's do these last two species. This is one, of course, everybody loves to hopefully find, Montezuma quail. It's probably going to be, you'll probably have more of a habitat discussion as opposed to individual spots.
Yep, just put yourself out in some good oak, juniper, grassland type of habitat, higher, you know, a little bit higher elevation. Have you ever had them in that Bartolo Canyon of Arivaca Lake?
Since the drought, they've been pretty scarce.
Yeah,
around
well,
there.
everywhere.
And yeah, so basically, if you find nice grassland with junipers, walk through that area, and they'll surprise you.
Yeah, they find you, you don't find them. Parker Canyon Lake, that area around Parker Canyon Lake tends to be a good spot for me. If you're down at the Patton Center and on the other side of the road from the Patton Center, just past the Patton Center is a trail that kind of goes up into the uplands there, and I've had them through there before too.
Awesome. Let's see, the last species. Speaking of Parker Canyon Lake, the last species, Anu was asking about some of the places we might be able to find a bald eagle in the area.
Actually, I was just surprised. I was asking, you've seen bald eagles at Arivaca Lake? Really? I've seen them in Flagstaff, but I didn't realize they came this far down south.
It's rare. It's rare.
Very rare. On the Chris's bird count last year, they heard one, and I had one that was a one-day wonder there. It's great habitat. I could see there's osprey there all the time, so I could see a bald eagle like taking up winter residence there. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Luke, scroll down to Parker Canyon Lake, because the last time I was out there, I didn't get it, but they were telling me that there was one that's a semi-resident out there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's been seen since May.
But
if you look back, like, yeah, I guess there wasn't any reported there in like November to January timeframe. But yeah, bald eagle is going to be rare, but you just got to be aware of it as something that's a possibility anywhere, anytime you're around like one of those big lakes, whether it be Arivaca, Parker Canyon, but yeah, once you get south of Phoenix, it becomes rare. It's a high five bird.
Yeah. Well, and actually, since you said Phoenix, Jillian actually just put in the chat that there's a pair of bald eagles at Chaparral Lake up in Glendale.
Yeah, I've been at a Diamondbacks spring training game and have them fly right over me.
That's cool.
Yeah, Phoenix is good for bald eagle, that's for sure.
All right, so the last one that we'll wrap up on, kind of more of a general question, but it's somewhere that people ask about it almost every one of these that we do, no matter what time of year it is. What type of birds are Madera Canyon this type of year? And do you think it's really kind of worth a visit in the fall and the winter?
I mean, yeah, especially if you're coming from out of town, I would still go and visit Madera Canyon, Santa Rita Lodge. Just don't expect like really big diversity. But going to Santa Rita Lodge, you're going to get Rivley's hummingbird that stays there throughout the whole winter. There's a possibility of other hummingbirds that come through there too, or like I don't know if the bear line is still being seen there. I don't know, but like you get hepatic tanager that still comes into those feeders, Arizona woodpecker, Mexican jay, wild turkey. You could have a painted redstart over winter there quite often. And then elegant trogon, I mean, sometimes does winter through there too. So like walking up through there, you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, one winter we had a white-throated thrush through there, not at Santa Rita Lodge, but in Madera Canyon. I think that was like that was like 2021 or something like that. 2020, 2021 when we had that. But yeah, I mean, just don't expect high diversity, but it is unique species that you won't get as easy in the lowlands. But yeah, I'd stop there, especially if I'm out of town.
Especially around the stream.
Yeah. Just like Brian said, like wherever there's water, if there's a pool of water there, you get all sorts of stuff coming in through there. You could have northern pygmy owl hunting over the water. You could have a water thrush that hangs out there, which I think there's been a water thrush right in through there recently. So yeah, just position yourself near the water or by the feeders, because there's water at the feeders as well. That's really the key is the water.
Cool. Wonderful. Well, I think that will wrap us up. I really appreciate it, Luke. I appreciate it, Brian. Had a few thank yous in the chat already. Always like here right before we wrap up. Of course, I always want to again thank everybody again for coming. Thank you for your support of Tucson Audubon. And then I always like at the end, if you please unmute yourself and go ahead and tell Brian and Luke thank you. This was a great presentation. I hope y'all got a lot out of it. And again, too, before we get off, I'll send out a wrap-up email today to everybody. I'll send out a wrap-up email to everybody. It'll have the link to the full YouTube presentation. I'll include the map that we showed of Arivaca Lake that we'll include in that as well. And then I know Luke mentioned it, but again, if you ever have questions, please feel free. Reach out to me, reach out to Luke. We love birding. We love passing on our passion to other people. So trust me, you're never bothering us to give us a call and talk about birding. We love to do it. So again, you'll have both of our information from that email. So again, just thank you for being here, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Be out there birding.
Thank you.
Thank you.